My next guest is a former model, singer, songwriter, and she's performed alongside a ton of greats like Stevie Wonder, Babyface, Rod Stewart, and a few other legends. Um, these conversations are very interesting for me because I never know at what point they'll take an interesting turn. And lucky for me, and hopefully for you, April Doyle and I immediately jump into a conversation of substance, which I just absolutely love. And just to give you a sense of the timing, I want to say this is week one of the civil unrest that followed right on the heels of George Floyd being murdered and, just the global response and the attention that it got. So here's our conversation. Take a listen. Hope you enjoy it. How you doing? I mean, I know there's a lot going on. It seems like all of my conversations are kicked off with that. It just seems like the thing to do to check in with people to see how they're doing with the pandemic and, and more recently, a lot of the unrest across the country.
This is the most bizarre time. Nobody ever saw any of this coming. The whole police thing, I hate to say it, I'm not giving the thumbs up to mayhem, but it was going to have to be something at this level to get people to listen. And so many people have died just like him, before him, and it got brushed aside. And I'm glad they're bringing up this list of names and stuff. And people are upset, and I don't know. It's this racism thing. It's cultural. I hate to say that, but like, you wouldn't believe the stuff I heard as a child. Thank God I didn't take any of it in. And I got married. I'm not married anymore, but when I got married, I think this was hilarious. The picture is it was all white girls on one side and all black guys on another side. I thought my dad was going to have a heart attack. And I said, "You don't have to come to the wedding. I don't care." And he got over it and he came. But back to my point, it's like we're raised hearing this stuff. And when you're a kid, you don't think, "Oh, that's wrong." You just think, "Oh, that's the way it is." Then you grow up and you live the way most of the time until you learn there are choices. You think that what you heard from your family and the way they were living was okay and just the way it is. And it's not. So unfortunately, this level of drama, it's like it has to happen to like knock on the door and get people to go, "What?" I mean, like, I really hope there is a fundamental change from this. I'm worried about it, but I really hope there is. I don't know if you saw Al Sharpton yesterday. He went off and, at the funeral. He did the funeral, and I don't know, and no one's even everyone stopped talking about the pandemic because this George Floyd thing has been so in everyone's face, which it should be. I don't know. This is just a weird year. I think everybody was hopeful about 2020, thinking, no, this is going to be this great positive. Our business was starting to pick up again, and the corporate band was getting calls, and everything seemed normal. And then boom, we're hit with all this bizarre. I guess it has to happen. I mean, if there's a reason for everything, there's a reason for everything, I guess. But yeah, it's hard. I'm a caregiver for my mother, and in the middle of all this, she takes precedence, and she's in pretty good shape. She just has memory loss, but that coupled with trying to keep her away from everything, because we dine out. It's like we're avid. We have like a black belt in dining out. Like, we go out for every lunch and every dinner. So we're like, oops, can't do that. We're stuck at home and we don't cook. So good old DoorDash came to the rescue, and then you could pick up. I don't know what it's like in you. What area are you in?
I'm in the Pico Robertson area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know there was. I mean, we would just go pick stuff up at places and bring it home and all that. But weird times, and it feels like I don't know. It's like everybody's kind of like waiting to see what's going to happen. Nobody feels solid about anything, about work, about, when it first happened, I sent out some money to all the musicians in the group, just trying to give them a little something, something, with everything getting awful. But I know that's not going to take care of, the ones that have kids. And I mean, at least it's something, but it just halted, the way everything just came to such a screeching halt. So many businesses, so many agencies I deal with, a lot of the agents have lost their businesses have shut down. Our gig is not necessary, getting people together in a for corporate events. That's a whole, I don't know if you know about the corporate thing, but it's pretty interesting. A lot of headliners are staying alive and have been staying alive through corporate entertainment. And Bon Jovi is all over the Cool in the Gang, Earth, Wind, Fire. I mean, like their main, I think, I'll bet you if you saw the numbers, that's the main money that they make is from these events. And they get flown all over the place. It's just like private concert. But of course you can't get these groups together now. So when is that going to be comfortable to do again? Everyone in the band is like waiting to hear what's going to happen with that. And nobody can foretell, nobody can foresee. But I do have some gigs booked at the end of the year. I'm hoping that they don't cancel, and people are asking about dates next year. Hopefully it's gonna ease back into some normalcy.
You just reminded me of why artists are so important, and it's in your case just the truth you're willing to speak. I don't want to make any assumptions. You are clearly, and for people who ever listen to this on the audio streaming platforms, you're a white woman, right?
How dare you?
Yeah, I just triggered you.
Well, no, it's a joke because I've always related more to the Black culture than the white culture, and nobody in my family, like I'm an oddity in this family because nobody understands it, but it is what it is. Just go ahead. I didn't mean to stop you.
No. And we got plenty of time to get to your music. I don't know how you're doing on time, but we'll definitely get to your music. But what you're saying is so important. And I ask, and what a lot of people may not realize is that Black people come in all different shades and colors. I have when my brother passed, but my brother and one of my sisters is like your complexion virtually. So it's like, I don't want to necessarily assume, not knowing you, like you could have folks in Louisiana, like be Creole, whatever. But
yeah.
But back to my point of the importance of artists is artists, a lot of times, good or bad, are inclined to speak their truth.
Yeah.
And what I appreciate about you is sharing your truth in that. And I think, well, let me ask a question. I'll get to something in a little bit. Where are you from originally?
From LA. I was raised
You're from LA?
I was raised in Palos Verdes, and then we moved down to San Diego when I was in grade school because my mom wanted to go to Mexico all the time. She had a place in Rosarito, and so she wanted to be closer and not have to do this big drive all the time. And we, like, full summers we spent in Mexico, and then we would come back over here, and I would do school in San Diego. And I've just been in San Diego since grade school. But I'm definitely LA girl, and I still say, flipping San Diego, but because it just doesn't have the cool vibe that I like. The art and stuff in LA and the edgy deal. San Diego's beautiful. That's where I should leave it, with San Diego.
For you, being a white person, and one of the cool things about entertainment in general and sports is by interacting with people of different races, you get to know them. And then the more you get to know them, like in the case of music or in sports, when you're in close proximity with people, you begin to realize what bullshit racism is.
Yeah, but it's such a conundrum because of the cultural thing. You look back to flipping Hitler and the stuff that they were saying. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what they were over. Was he saying? He was saying everybody was supposed to be blonde haired and blue eyed in his eyes. And, and how can you determine an entire race does not have any validity? Anyway, it's just been, look at the Hutus and the Tutsis. Do you know about them?
Yeah.
They've killed millions of each other, cutting the mothers' breasts off so they can't feed their babies. I mean, like in the tribes. I don't know, what kills me is what is wrong with human nature? We are supposed to be the smart ones, the ones with discernment. We can make decisions. Animals would never do this kind of cruelty to each other. Granted, they're more just survival, but we're supposed to be the smart ones. And we do this horrific stuff to each other and always have. I heard somebody say the other day, well, the slaves, when they were brought over and then they just decided it wasn't right. Well, they offered them a boat to go back to Africa. And I go, what are you talking about? And I said, I don't know if that's true. I never heard that. But even if it was true, look at the way everyone's down on the Mexican people coming over here. Tell you what, if you were born in Tijuana and you knew that 15 miles away, your family could have a better life, you'd make more money, whatever you did, you'd go across the border. You would. A better life for you and your family. I mean, why would people go back to Africa at that time and in that place? I don't know. I mean, I can talk myself in circles and really just be despondent over it. Again, being so disappointed in human nature. How can I look at somebody and go, you're a moron because your skin is different color than mine? How does anybody think that that's viable? Whether you're yellow or red or black or brown, whatever. How can anybody look at somebody and make a determination because of a color? I mean, this is just a stupid example, but my mom's really into Family Feud. So we sit there. There's this channel that plays it all day long, and he's got a lot of backwoods people coming on there.
Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of people, you look at them and it's interesting to find out what you're thinking, because there is suppositions that we make that we don't even know that we're making. And these people come on there and they might not talk well, but they're doctors and lawyers and dentists and I'm like, wow, that's amazing, because they had to do a lot to get to that title. All different kinds of people, just because they talk different, maybe they don't talk really nicely, but look at their background. I'm not a doctor. I didn't put in all those years of school. I could have, but I didn't. I mean, like, there's just that supposition that people make about each other. I guess we just have to try to be conscious of it. But I just don't understand judging somebody by a color. It's insane. Absolutely.
Well, it's an easy thing. It's optically, it's a very obvious thing to try to make a case of why you are better than somebody. It's like one of the laziest platforms somebody can have an argument with. Okay, you have two eyes and they work. There's a ton of different animals who have eyes that work that can discern one color from another. It's just
what that is that you just said, though. I did learn this, and it's very interesting. When you look at somebody and you realize that you've made some kind of a judgment about whether you're better or not, that's actually from caveman survival. Because when we were living in caves and hitting bison over the head, eating them, or I don't know what you believe. I don't know. A lot of people don't believe that, but there's bones and things from that time. But it was more basic animal instinct survival. Do I fit in? Because that's one thing about being alone that I learned about the whole caveman thing. The reason people don't like to be alone is because when we were cave people or whatever, or more basic, if you were alone, you died because you couldn't hunt. You needed like a crew, your your clan or whatever, you know, I don't think they were talking too much, but you needed to be with a group of people to hunt and survive. There was some kind of community, even though they didn't speak well. So I think that when we look at each other and we assess this, who are you? You know, do you accept me? Do I accept you? You know, am I good enough? Are you good enough? I think that kind of goes back to that basic innate caveman way of thinking, of assessment, because we don't want to be alone.
I think that's part of it. Another part of it is, I think there's some level of fear and greed. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot wrapped up into that. You know, just dealing with people in general. But okay, so you're this woman from PV. I've known people in PV and Rolling Hills, and I've had friends around there. How did you become different? Like you mentioned that there's some difference of opinions maybe with race with your father and who knows who else. How did you become different and open to interacting with, you know, people of different races?
I've asked myself that, and I think, and I don't have a definitive answer, but I think that maybe hearing the horrible things that my dad said made me want to check. Maybe it made me kind of curious about. Of course, that doesn't play for the music thing. That's what I don't get over, because my friends were listening to rock and roll, and I was listening to funk. I mean, I don't know where that came from. That didn't come. I mean, I didn't hear anybody in my family, you know. So there's something in the water. I don't know what it is, but no, seriously, I think there might have been some curiosity because he was saying so much negative things that maybe I just kind of wanted to check it out for myself, or I don't know. I don't feel like it even was something so black and white. I'm just, thank God that it didn't go in and stain my brain.
And it's like being a musician. I mean, by and large, or especially having the kind of taste that you do, it's like, how do you survive in the industry? Well, how do you survive harmoniously in the industry and get to know people and not see, or I guess not like, just not, I don't know, I guess, you know, I just kind of marvel at how you don't see the human side of somebody when you're spending so much time with these other people, whether you're on, again, in a sports team, or whether you're traveling on the road and you're letting your hair down and you're just kind of having normal conversations and joking around and playing. It's like, how do you not see the humanity in somebody of a different color?
Yeah. And then on another note, I have had a conversation with a lot of the guys in the band, and there's some that I know, unfortunately. I mean, I know them well enough to joke with them, and I hope this isn't offensive, but if they act like they're being put down or something, I go, oh, I know, it's the man keeping you down again, right? I mean, like I know them well enough to say that, and then we've talked about it. I know that some of them are never going to be able to let that go. It's in their fiber that white means there's going on some level. I just think that there's always going to be a fear of something's going to happen, like never be able to fully trust. And they seem like they trust me. I've done everything I can for them. I've been very open and honest about money and bookings, and I take care of everybody. I don't feel like they distrust me in regards to work and finances and stuff. But there is this little thing of, because they've had it in their family. And again, I even if I joke with them, they're like, yeah, man, you know, I mean, like, they'll admit it. They're like, they are not ever going to put that down. They're never going to be. And I think that that's sad. I think it's sad. However, that's part of what's been shoved into their psyche from society, from their parents. from what they see on TV, you know, all the commercials. Well, I mean, and that's a weird thing now too. Actually, this is positive. Music, television, everything. It's cool to be black now. Even though this other shit's still going, sorry, even though this other stuff's going on.
You can
It's
curse.
insane. No, it's cool to be like, it's cool to be gay. You look at, do you go on TikTok?
Yeah.
How about all the beautiful transgenders on there? There's this big thing where there's a whole bunch of transgenders that, I mean, they're not trying to be male or not trying to be female. You just kind of can't tell. And they're stunning. And if you read the comments, people are like, it's hilarious. These people are like, well, I didn't think I was gay, but now I'm not sure. You know, like there's some very funny stuff on there. These people are stunning. And one girl responded to it, who found it was a girl. She responded. And I said, man, you're incredible looking. Are you modeling? She goes, well, I don't know where to go for modeling. I go, well, your look is in right now. I said, just give some submissions to some modeling agencies. And that's in. I mean, a lot of these fashion designers have been putting people on the runway and in their ads, transgender, full of tattoos, piercings, just being different is in. So it's a weird thing to say that it's cool to be black, but they started putting black people in. Maybe the Obama thing was the real icebreaker. I don't know. But now you do see a lot more people of all different backgrounds in TV, on TV, like series, commercials, ads. So when this stuff goes on that's been going on, that's blowing up right now, I'm like, I thought we were kind of getting over it. I thought we were kind of pushing forward positively. And to see that we're like acting like 1600s over here, I'm like, it's so disappointing. And I know that there's a lot of backwoods, Trump-loving BS going on, whatever. And I know that that's probably still way too alive and well. But let's not talk about Trump, you know?
Yeah, well, that thing you're talking about that's in our fiber, it's called generational trauma. It's like trauma from, the slavery days through post-slavery, through the Roaring '20s, World War II, on in the '60s, the '70s, the '90s. It's called trauma. And like, not to get too nerdy, but even some scientists have confirmed like that trauma can be passed on through DNA. So what I may feel is what I may feel is some trauma that my grandparents and great grandparents and their great grandparents have passed on. So it's a complicated thing, man, and it's jacked up. But good for you. Like we need people like you. Like we need white people to acknowledge what's going on and speak out against it the way you do.
We need everybody. There's also this reverse racism thing that happens. And from people that have been treated like racially, there's reverse racism. And I'm like, and that happens in the band sometimes too. Like I know them well enough to talk about it. I'm like, and then I go into my joke. I find that I sometimes don't want to deal with it because it's uncomfortable. So I make jokes. I say, oh, you making fun of Cracker, right? And then we go into that stuff, and come on, don't talk about Whitey and all that. And it's not funny. It's really, and granted, if you put your hand on the stove 15 times and get burned, you just think that's going to burn me. You're not going to ever trust it. So it's like they've been dealt. The guy that I was married to, he remembered he took one trip with his parents when he was probably about 7, and they were driving somewhere back east. I don't even remember what town it was. And this is, let's see, so if he was 7, it must have been 1964, 65. And there was still a sign on there saying, coloreds. It said colored something, go. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding. This is like still like I said, it was like 1965 or something. And he saw this and he had never seen it before and he didn't know what it meant. So he asked his parents about it. And his parents were a black man who was a policeman and a white woman. And so they, tried to have a conversation with him about it. He said he didn't really get it, but he remembered seeing that. He thought it was so weird. And anyway, back to people dealing with stuff like that. I mean, there's a million stories. Can we ever really ditch this? I don't know. Maybe it will have to be something that is backed up legally. No, everybody needs to be treated like this. Everybody needs this amount of pay. Everybody needs to be, there shouldn't be any specialism, I don't know. I know. Can it happen in our lifetime? I hope so. I hope we can see something dramatic in our lifetime, because it's insanity. It's like, a tiger and an ocelot looking at each other going, I hate you because your spots are different. There's nothing in that. There's nothing in that. There really isn't. There's nobody smarter than you. We're all the same animal. We're all human beings, the same animal. So just because you were, if you go back, people get mad at me. I say, I said, really? Blue-eyed, brown-haired Jesus? Really? I go, no, I saw this really interesting thing on National Geographic. They talked about where Jesus was born. Jesus was probably about 5'5" and almost black skin, wiry, ugly hair. Like that's what the people looked like at that time, born in that area. They were dark skinned because it was so hot there. And I say, yeah. I said, that's not what Jesus looked. And people get mad. I'm like, anyway, that's a whole other subject, right? But I don't know. Just, people are, now one more religious complaint. The other way I get in trouble, the Garden of Eden, right? People don't want to talk about, some people don't want to talk about the caveman because they want to believe that everything started in the Garden of Eden. And then I say to them, so what you're telling me is that 2 white people gave birth to yellow, black, brown. And I go, really? So she had children and then what, she slept with her children? They get furious with me. They don't want to talk. I have never found anybody that will just have like a logical conversation. I said, I'm not trying to find dirt about something. It just doesn't make any sense. The Bible is full of great stories for us to follow. It really is. Stories have a lot of meaning. But literally, that didn't happen. Sorry. Chinese people didn't come out of Eve, and black people didn't come out of Eve. And you know what I mean? It's like the whole world didn't come from Adam and Eve.
When you're talking to people who are A, not scientists, and B, are opposed to being open to facts and just common sense, you're going to get that kind of pushback because that belief is the very foundation of a lot of racism and discrimination. And it's like what your point with Jesus, if you've been to the Vatican Museum in Italy like I have, and millions of other people, there are a bunch of paintings of a black Jesus and a black
Really?
Mary and a black,
Wow.
yeah, like there's, and I had a college professor tell me about that years ago, and sure enough, when I got there, I saw it. But if you can't afford to go there, Google images of Black Jesus in the Vatican.
You know what? Because nobody ever talks about that. How come no one talks about it? If it's in that museum, you would think that people would at least acknowledge the possibility,
Well, yeah, and then there's like the scientists, anthropologists will tell you that civilization started in Africa. But if you're somebody hanging on the racism, that just totally fucks your head up. And
Yeah.
you don't want to hear that, because then you have to question everything you were taught, every decision you made regarding race. Like, it's man, but I don't know. Like, again, good for you for at least pushing those conversations. So let's get into your music. Let's
Sure.
get into your music, man. You're this girl. Well, not girl. You're this woman. Once was a girl that comes from PV. What? Like, I looked at your bio. You perform with some heavy hitters, and I'll let you call out some of those names. But like, going back, what was your journey getting into music and becoming a professional singer?
I was acting, and I was doing a lot of theater, and I was thinking that that was going to be my deal. I was just going to, work on being an actress and all that. And this friend at one point said, I'm getting together with this group, and they want to know if you sing and you want to come with me. And it was one of the first corporate groups that just took off. Like, it just, like, we were playing like 25 dates a month. We were all over the place. And it was a great intro for me into music. And there were so many gigs that I just kind of just went into music, just because the time factor. I don't really have time to do anything else. But they didn't want to grow and change. And so what I learned in that group, because I was their choreographer, stylist, etc., I thought, I'm going to go do my own thing. And so then I went and did the Hot Chili Productions, which is the group I was telling you about earlier. And we play all private, some high-end fundraisers and that kind of thing. But that's how I got, fully into the music, was from that first band I got into taking off, and then deciding that, I can run this better. I should run my own thing. And I didn't like moving on, but it just it was like growing pains, and it just happened. And it was a good thing.
Some of the big people you've played with?
We have opened for Seal, Taylor Swift, and some of the people in the band have been on tour with her and preferred to come home and be close to their family and just work with the corporate situation. Ziggy Marley, Dionne Warwick. That was interesting. These people in Texas. We're not a wedding band, but we've done some celebrity weddings and things like that. We did Drew Brees' wedding. Anyway, so we go back there, and they wouldn't tell us who it was. It was in this state building, this beautiful old building, and they had Dionne Warwick come out and sing. We were like, it was so random. You just don't expect to see that kind of celebrity at a wedding. So that was interesting. It was cool to meet her and see her. And then the lady pulled out a wedding cake, and it was a cake made in her shape. Like, it was a 5-6 foot tall cake of the bride.
Wow.
That was anyway, that was bizarre. But we've opened for Tony Bennett, Tom Jones, Pink Martini, or we opened a lot for Kool and the Gang and Earth, Wind, Fire. People across the board, just like, again, it's been cool because the corporate thing we play, they're doing corporate as well. They're doing these private events for corporations. So we've backed some of them up, and then played, like their after party after they're done, or the before them, or it's cool. It's been fun.
I imagine it's hard not to be in that company of iconic music figures and not have that up your game and, really pull out the very best of you.
Yeah, and it's interesting as you get to one-on-one experience. Some people are, and of course we hear this in Hollywood. Natalie Cole was not nice. She was really not nice. She came into this, it was called the Swan Ball. And it's this debutante people that are in the military, an old school money thing in Nashville that happens. And she came in saying she wanted to eat this and move out of the way. And I was just like, it's so disappointing. You know, you're like, come on, man. You know, we're all here because we chose to be here. Let's treat each other nice, you know. And then there's people like Seal and Donny Osmond even. We did events and they came out of their way and came to me and said, man, you've got a great voice and you've got a great band. And that it was really nice of them because they didn't have to come and do that. They could have just left. They were done with what they were doing and went out of their way to compliment us, which was so nice. So, you know, Hot Chili, again, that's like my day job band, I call it, you know, and there's a lot of major opportunities in it. And then April in the Velvet Room is my original project that I've been talking about and primarily promoting with these interviews about, and it's all industry guys, amazing players who still play with Stevie Wonder, and you know they're all like J-Lo, and I'm honored to go in the studio and record with these people because they have, you know, bragging rights all day long. And then it's like mutual respect, you know, for where we've all come from. And then so it adds like an extra spark to the music. And so it's like I have the two different sides of this musical endeavor going on.
So I heard your single, Tears Are Gone, quite obviously sounds, I mean, my interpretation, it's, you know, you're addressing some level of healing. But I like to hear your take on why you wrote this song or why you performed with this song and just sort of what's the meaning behind it.
It's cool hearing what people take from it. Like I've heard some people say, man, that song, man, I cried. And I'm like, that's interesting to me because the way what I intended when I was writing it was kind of like, I'm okay. It's like all this stuff has happened and my tears are done and it's like time to move on and everything's going to be okay. You know, it seemed the tone that I wrote it with was like kind of hopeful. And but people have different takes on it. Some people have said that to me that they felt hopeful from it. Some people said they felt very sad from it. But yeah, I really like that song. That song came to me with a different vibe. That song is a very different vibe from most of the other songs in the project. It's, I don't know, it seems almost kind of James Taylor-ish. But the other stuff is kind of sophisticated, R&B, neo soul, jazz mixy mix. But that song has gotten some interest, and people have talked about maybe it showing up in a movie or something. So I'm crossing my fingers that I could totally hear that song, like, you know, some part of a movie or credits or whatever.
Were you tying this song with some personal experiences you've had, or was it sort of observational? Like I always wonder what drives, excuse me, I always wonder what drives certain artists with their creations.
Kind of a mixture of both things of that you said, like kind of like, yes, there were some personal feelings that made some of those words come out, but then there was kind of like we all have to move on from this stuff, you know. I learned that in a course I was in. Of course, we get upset over things, but if we sit and suffer, that's a choice. And I didn't like that at first. I argued with it. You know, I thought, you know, it's not my fault I feel this way, you know, into that. Then you realize your experience is your choice. So there was a little bit of that in there too. Like, yeah, things have not always worked out, but it's time to move on and choose other things and have your tears be done, you know? So there was a little hope, a little denouement of the past upset, kind of like a little mixy mix. Yes, I just said a French word. I just threw a French
I don't mind. It's interesting, you know, to see people mature as individuals and mature as artists. Is this a song you could have written are made 10 years ago or earlier in your life?
No, that's a very interesting question. I like the question. No, I would have just been. I was under the feeling and the assumption that, you know, when I would go through stuff, that it just, just the drama, you know, I think a lot of artists are really into the, oh, poor me, or the, you know, I think that's part of what gets people to maybe put art out in the world sometimes, is all this emotion, positive and negative, up, down, sad, happy, you know. But no, I would have just sat there and, you know, written poor me songs like 10 years ago.
It's funny you mentioned people going through stuff. It reminds me, I think it was, have you ever been to the Catalina Island Jazz Festival?
Yeah.
I was there years ago, and I remember the saxophonist, and I won't say and I couldn't say the person's name because I don't remember, but I remember my observation was, hey, this person technically is spot on. But then my other thought was, this person hasn't suffered through much. And it's like some artists, not only suffered, hasn't really experienced life. And the way some artists experience life, whether it's tragedy or high levels of happiness, I feel like sometimes that bleeds through and it comes through their music. Do you recall any transformational or significant moments that changed you as an artist?
Another good question. For me, realizing at some point that I didn't have to live up to the pop norm. That's how this whole project came out. People were asking me for years, where's your project? Where's your album? And I felt like I was supposed to sing like Mariah Carey, do the vocal gymnastics. And if I couldn't do that maybe it was just boring or not good enough, or I don't know what. I was putting all these constraints on myself. And then finally got to a point where I'm like, you know, the project started with, me, Kevin Flournoy, who's the producer and amazing musical director. He works with Shaka Khan, Babyface. He goes out with Pointer Sisters all the time. And I contacted him to just record some of the old songs that I had heard years ago and just loved. Nancy Wilson's song, Betcha by Golly Wow. Wishing on a Star. Just some beautiful old songs that always meant something to me. And then it sort of morphed into this, all of a sudden we kind of had this artistic connection, and he's like, you got any lyrics? I'm like, yeah, I got a lot of lyrics. I've got a lot of songs. And these songs just started popping, and it was easy, and the creative connection was great. So all of a sudden, here's all these great songs. So the album has got this like a nod to, you know, stuff that I loved. And then it like morphs into this other thing. So we were thinking about splitting it up, and because the album's done, but we were thinking of maybe splitting it into 2 EPs just for, you know, context and content. I don't know if we're going to do that or not. I obviously it's emotion. You know, for me, it's like, as a new writer, I used to sit and wait for the lightning bolt to hit me. So songs came far and few between. And then I heard and realized that it's a practice, and you need to just pick up the pen, write whatever, work on rhyming, work on lyrics, work on, you know, you have to kind of know what's happening. That's another thing. You kind of have to know what's happening, what people are into. But then I don't think you have to be completely run by that. Like, you don't want your own art to be silenced by what you think everybody wants to hear on the radio. You know, so that's an interesting thing too. So, I mean, I want the stuff that I put out. it's kind of got a wide age range, which I like. And I used to be really like disgusted by the term adult contemporary, because that just meant like old lame music to me. And now it's changed, and adult contemporary is this wide age range of, I mean, you listen to my favorite station on Sirius Radio is Heart and Soul and The Groove. I don't know if you listen to Sirius.
No, I
But
don't, but I'm somewhat familiar.
the Groove is all old school, which I love, this funk, like R&B based old school. And then the Heart and Soul is where I would love my music to end up, is this, it's adult contemporary. It's kind of like it's Kim and it's Her, and it's like, you know, it's a little bit more, it's more, a little bit more, not all of it's low key, but a lot of it seems to be like the trend has been for a little bit more low key songs. But I know it's interesting how things go, the styles of music go in waves, you know, and it's
Mhm.
now this stuff is considered adult contemporary. So it's like, okay, I don't have to hate that term anymore, because that's where I would like my stuff to be played. And that's pretty much, adult contemporary has kind of grown up in a cool way. And it's got this like, you know, more easy listening jazz, light R&B, little neo soul. Love me some Erykah Badu. That's my thing. But I know that that's its own thing.
You hit on a couple of good things. Like, I think one, for any artist, especially a writer, you just have to do it, you know, and just experiment and fail. And then the second thing you hit on is, yeah, I think sometimes you can get a sense of what the public wants, but then sometimes there's like great art born of not seeking, you know, what the public taste may be, and you just put it out there, and it's just like, bam, they love it.
Not looking for public approval. They were moved to do something and did it because they were moved, not because they were waiting to get this, you know.
Pat on the back, right? I had another guy on who was a hip hop artist, and I have a same question for you. Do you feel like everything that's going on now is changing you as an artist?
I was automatically going to say no, but looking at it and thinking about your questions, you ask very good questions. I think that there is something in the water, so to speak, of just, you know, I'm real big on compassion and forgiveness. I wrote it because I need to hit myself over the head over this to live this way. I think that going, you know, having compassion for what's going, even for the ignorance, finding compassion for this, what's going on, is definitely going to affect the words that come out of me. So yeah, I think that my writing will be more sensitive for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's really early in this process. You know, we're sort of 2 months into the pandemic, and we're like barely a week into a lot of the civil unrest. So, what the same question for April as the woman, April as a human being? Like, how are you feeling about the change that's going to come with that person?
That's a loaded question for me because of all the stuff that's going on in my life, like with my family and stuff. I'm actually doing some work right now to try to pinpoint and connect with, so that I don't get stuck. A lot of people feel very stuck right now because this has hit them over the head. I fully understand, but it's hurt so many people financially, emotionally, their work, their family, it's so many different levels. So I'm working with somebody on grief. I want to expand my access on this grief, because a lot of people are grieving right now, and for a lot of different reasons. And this is a really cool thing. I might partner up with them and then actually try to promote them on their company, because it's a newer company, and it's supporting people through the grieving process. I really suggest that people look into that too, because you don't realize how much in times like this you're stuffing on so many different levels, and it can come out. It doesn't help you in any way. If you're stuffing about family, business, money, whatever. I mean, it doesn't help anything. Even if people just journal, to try to have an outlet. But I'm looking into that because I don't want to explode or go postal.
Well, I mean, one of the cool things about you is you can relate on a human level. I had a woman on named Dr. Lori Nadell, and she's a trauma expert. And she explains that we're in a triple pandemic with the virus itself, what's happening financially, and I think the other thing was what's happening socially. But yeah, man, you touch on a lot of relevant things, especially grief. Like, I was a caretaker for my mother the way you are, and I
went really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I went through grief counseling, and it sounds like, I mean, it's not fun, but the benefits of it, I still reap them to this day. What are your feelings towards the future with, I'm assuming you miss being in front of a live audience, and who knows when that'll come back, your ability to get with some of your fellow artists in a room and just, have some serious sessions.
Well, what we did so far to try to keep some connection going with that was we made a video. I came up with JP Castillo, who is the lead singer, one of the male lead singers in my group, Haute Chile. He's unbelievable, and everybody should look him up. jpcastillomusic.com, and he just opened up for the last 12 shows of J-Lo's tour. He was out as a percussionist, and she heard him singing at a sound check and flipped. And so he opened up, she had him open up for her last 12 shows, which is, talk about a pat on the back. He also goes out with the Jacksons, and he sings Michael's stuff. So it just dawned on me with everything that's happening. I'm like, oh my God, Heal the World, the lyrics in Heal the World. So we got the band together, and we have that on our page. It's HauteChileProductions.com. Is it okay to talk about that?
Oh, you'll have ample time to promote anything you want.
Yeah, that's it's HauteChile Productions.com, and we did this really great video, and JP put it together, and he sings like a bird, and all the girls are amazing in our crew, and that's really nice. So we finished our Heal the World, and then we did one of the pictures. I asked everybody, what do you look forward to after things go back to some sense of normalcy? And everybody held up things like going to restaurants or gigging again, being on stage. We have J-Lo's bass player in our group, Will Burkhead, and we have saxophone player that plays them. We have all these great people that are, it's really weird for them to be stuck at home, not doing anything, being on, when they're not, I lose them sometimes when they go on tour, but luckily tours are shorter than they used to be. I mean, just for the corporate act. But I have this amazing stable of people. So like for April in the Velvet Room, depending on who's home and available, I get to pick from all this beautiful talent. So, and that's the whole thing about the Velvet Room, is you never know who's going to be in the Velvet Room. So we got to do one show before everything went down. It was March 8th, and we were at Vibrato in Bel Air. It's a Herb Alpert's club. And I had James T come out. He's one of the main dancers on Masked Singer and Dancing with the Stars. And he and his amazing female counterpart stepped out into the room and I had them come out and just dance for 2 numbers. People weren't expecting it. They went in and danced like around the crowd. There's no dance floor at vibrato. People are just sitting there, dining, watching the show. So that was my idea for that show, and I have a beautiful female vocalist / violinist that came out to join us on this show too, Angelina. And she plays with Eminem, and which is random. She's done they all have bragging rights for days. So again, it's the Velvet. You never know who you're going to see in the Velvet Room, and I get to pick and choose this amazing talent who's going to be featured at whatever show. So again, we were lucky to be able to do that. That was our first show with that crew. Before everything went down, and have no idea when we're going to be able to play again. I'm imagining it'll be at the very end of the year or early part of next year when people start feeling comfortable to go out and be in a group.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I hear the NBA is opening up again. I have no idea if there will be spectators in the audience, but yeah, you could be right. It could be the end of the year, but who knows, man?
I know. Yeah, they were saying next year, but it seems like people are feeling comfortable a little bit earlier, and hopefully it'll be okay and we won't have a second round of this. God forbid we won't have a second round of this virus.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you are dying to get to in terms of a project, whether it's some collaboration, jump into a different genre, anything like that?
Yeah, I've got my social media guy who's amazing, Rich Elizalde. He does JP Castillo, and he's connected with all different people in the industry. He is going. I want to do. I have some movie ideas, and he does decks for movies. So I'm going to get a couple of movie ideas down. So that's, and I'm sure there will be music involved with those projects as well. But I'm kind of really interested in that because I've never attempted that before. So I'm going to learn the process on that, and I've got some great ideas. I'm going to just put that feather in my cap.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I wish there was some perfect statement I could say that had magic fairy dust in it that would go out and touch everybody and say, find compassion for each other. We have to move on. We don't want to hurt each other. Let's find a way to coexist with respect, in music and art. And we all have so much to contribute. We really do. Humans are so creative. If we would just give each other a break and move on, that's my wish.
Yeah, it's a very human answer. Well, let me just say, like this, like I came into this with you with just really no expectations, and man, my experience with you has by far exceeded what I would have expected. And I feel like what I got was a whole human being giving some very thoughtful and authentic human answers. And I appreciate you for sharing that with me.
Thank you. And your questions were very real. They were more like there was more substance to the questions, which I really appreciate. So thanks for trying to stay connected, and you're in a public forum, but you're keeping like some reality and some intention and some realness in there. I appreciate that. Me
and my sister have we have an expression we throw around, like we don't want to, give people empty calories. It's like, either we're going to try to say substance of substance or just nothing at all.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So just to be clear, like how do people get access to, your social media, your music, your websites? Do you want to run through that again?
Sure. Thank you. On Facebook, it's April and the Velvet Room. And on the bottom right, there are links to audio, video. There's like 2 or 3 videos out. Then, of course, there's a website, www.aprilandthevelvetroom.com. Would love it if people would go check it out, both of them. Let me know if you like it and what you think. And that'd be awesome.
Very good. Well, thanks again. And If you ever want to ruin your music career, you can have me singing with you.
Oh, you're no good, huh?
I'm horrible. It's like, I'm so bad. Like I enjoy being bad at it. Like there's probably some illness, some, medical diagnosis for, like I shouldn't enjoy being that poor of a singer that much.
I think I always say, I think everybody's got music in them, but it comes out in different ways. Like some people are incredible dancers. Some people play an instrument. Some people sing. I think music just comes out of everybody in a different way.
That is such a nice and politically correct thing to say. And it's nice of you. Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that. I mean, I won't ruin the moment. That's a wonderful thing to say. Okay. Well, good. Well, thanks again, April. You be safe, be well. The best of luck to you.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. No, it was really great talking to you. Like it was a real conversation. I appreciate it.
We'll be in touch.